Hello, future homeowners. My name is Stephen Mead with Domicile Real Estate, where we are on a mission to help California's renters become homeowners. This video is our first time buyer Southern California market update. It is Friday, January 29th, 2021. We're changing up our format just a little bit. So each week, what we're going to do is go through our normal stats, kind of what we're predicting. And then at the end, we're going to do something that I feel like is kind of like a topic that either I'm being asked about a lot or just something that I want to say and get out there. You'll see I'm wearing a coat because it is cold outside, but what is not cold is the housing market. I think that might be the worst kind of joke that I've done in one of these videos. I'm sorry, it's Friday, folks. It's cold, it's rainy outside, and the market is completely on fire. And I'm going to go through the stats and I'm going to tell you why. We pretty much have a lot of news that's going to corroborate that, but there is one little bit of hope that we are seeing. So without further ado, let's jump into the stats. And I'm going to talk to you about a little bit of a glimmer of hope if you're a first-time home buyer, that things might get a little bit easier for you. So if we start off here, this looks like great news. We have our closed prices are actually down a little bit in our entry-level single-family home, and our prices are at least up only a teeny bit in our condos. But remember something, this is data that is based on contracts that were signed 30 to 45 days ago. So these are based on closed prices. That would mean if we are on the 29th of January, these are the contracts that are from just before or they're from probably about the middle of December, early to middle of December, or middle of December to end of December, rather. That is typically a very slow period. And if you'll remember when I was doing these videos, if you were not busy with holiday stuff and you were watching our videos, I said we are at a relative sort of calm point in the market where things are going to be a little bit easier for you. Not a huge amount easier, but a little bit. And we are now seeing the results of that with these slightly softened prices. I think it's important to understand, though, that this is the past and not the present. We're just kind of using this as sort of an affordability index as we go through our affordability. If we look here at our payments, we actually see some really good news. So right after I got done saying we are now past 2018 prices, what happened to this number and where did it go? And why did it drop by basically over $200 a month for our entry-level single-family home? Now, just a quick reminder, this is the total payment based on 5% down. It includes mortgage insurance, taxes, etc. This is meant to be a realistic first-time home buyer number for this payment. Why did we drop $200 and how did that happen? Well, it's pretty easy. We had a spike in interest rates and that spike subsided and our interest rates are quite a bit lower this week. So we saw a modest price reduction, just a teeny bit, but we saw a big payment reduction because those mortgage rates came back down. This is really good news for those of you who are out there who thought maybe you would sort of miss the boat on interest rates. It looks like they are going to remain sort of lowered for a while. Of course, we never know how long that while is going to be. If you look here in our condos, we see only $18 month difference. We are still well below our 2018 numbers. Despite everything that you are hearing out in the news, that the housing market, that prices are going crazy, they are. The fact is payments are not necessarily going nearly as crazy as the market. And I think that's really a good thing if you're a first-time home buyer, if you're the kind of person that might be looking at this not just as your first home, but also as possibly even your first investment, right? You might not sell this one because you have such a great interest rate on the loan. So moving on with our minimum household income, this is something that we've kind of had a lot of fun sort of over the past couple months looking at. And again, we are below that 2018 mark. We're still well into the 80,000 for our entry-level single-family home. And we are, a good few $1,000s below here for our entry-level condos, which again is a 2-bedroom, 2-bath. So if you look at this, right, I think the right way to sort of interpret this graph is just remember, this is the minimum income required to afford the payment and qualify based on no other debt. So means your household has to have at least this income to qualify for sort of these entry-level property price point. Now, this is a graph that I think really tells us a lot about that relationship between supply and demand. And that relationship is, in both of our categories here, these are very strong numbers. Anything over 80% is very much a seller's market. Anything over 90% is a hyper competitive, ultra low inventory market. And that is where we are for our single family home entry level. And this is based on a 14-day average, right? And we see we are at 95% here, indicated by this blue line. If we look at our condo figures, we are at 84%. These are both still very, very competitive markets. But I don't want you to be disheartened, because the fact is, I think a lot of agents, they want to sell luxury, they want to sell upmarket properties. And I've always felt it's actually the entry level buyers who are most in the need, of an excellent, highly skilled agent to advocate on their behalf. So the good news is we are not going anywhere. Now, if we look at our total inventory, I think this sort of explains where the problem is. And the reason why that we aren't seeing things ease up in the spring, especially in January, like we normally do in our market. And this is our total inventory, right, in both of our categories. And this is, again, across Los Angeles and Orange counties. We see from September of last year, we kind of spiked in November, then inventory dropped off towards the end of the year. It hit a bottom that first week in January, and then it looked like it was going to do the hockey stick thing, right? We see it going up, and it completely fizzled out. Week to week, there's an ever so slight increase for our condos, but I think the real story here is looking at these entry-level single-family homes. If it feels like there are fewer and fewer homes out there for you, and that inventory has never been so scarce, you are correct. It is not your imagination. We are approaching those sort of bottom numbers where we had barely over 1,000 3-bedroom, 2-bath single-family homes available across all of Los Angeles and Orange counties. I mean, that is just such a low number, as to really be astounding. And I don't know if there's anything about that number that's going to change in the short run. We kind of look to the beginning of the year. We might get to a point where, because the housing prices have gotten high enough, that induces a number of sellers to jump into the market, which will increase inventory. But this is starting to feel like last year, where we kept waiting for that other shoe to drop, and it never really came, even through the summer. Now, here we have a chart that I think really sort of illustrates, relatively speaking, how scarce is inventory. Well, if we look at our entry-level single-family condos, we see kind of hovering in the 7 to 8 weeks range. It was like that for most of the summer. I know we don't show that on our graph here, but inventory went up. It kind of spiked right at the very beginning of the year. Not a lot of people buying. And then as buyers ramp back up, look at what has happened. We're now settling in the mid-5s. So we didn't even get back to where we were in the fall. We are still below that point. And if we look down here at our entry-level single-family homes, boy, I think this really illustrates the point of kind of the inventory situation. Here we are kind of hovering in this high 3 zone all through the fall. We spike a little bit at the basis of the new year. Again, very few buyers. And then it is just eroded with a certain steadiness. And right now, we have under 3 weeks of inventory. That means if no new homes came on the market in less than 3 weeks, we would be out of houses. They would be all sold and gone. And I just think that is truly an astounding figure. I don't think I've ever really seen numbers that looked like this in any market that we've had. Now, of course, I mentioned, and if you look at our description, we are going to have a discussion of, are we in a bubble? That's coming here. Give me a couple minutes. If we're looking here at our total inventory, went back. If we're looking at our percent still active. So the statistic that this is based on is we look at all the new homes that came on the market in the last 14 days, and we say how many of those are still available as of today, how many have already been eaten up. And, if you look here, we see kind of a dive, and then we actually gain some ground on our entry-level homes. What do I think is happening, and why is our total inventory dropping? Well, basically what this is saying is we are seeing a little bit of an influx in new inventory, but it's all being eaten up by new buyers, meaning that there are a number of listings that just came on in the last 7 days to pump this up. But guess what? We're seeing new buyers come into the marketplace as well, and they're eating up that old inventory. So we're not really gaining any ground on this. I think you're going to see this number will again stabilize out and drop next week. So one of the questions that kind of gets posed a lot, and especially gets talked about among some of my colleagues and I, is this notion of, are we in a bubble, right? And I think if you're a first-time homebuyer, if you're somebody who was around during 2007, 2008, I think that's a very legitimate concern. And just to give you an idea, I personally bought a home in 2005. I didn't lose it in foreclosure. I was able to sell that home in 2015 at a profit. But I think it's important to really sort of take stock at what were things like during that time period. And there's some market differences. I am concerned that I don't see any light at the end of the tunnel for inventory. There's only a couple of places I think new inventory could come from in our Los Angeles and Orange County markets. One area that I think inventory could come from is, the rather unfortunate nature of COVID, especially in the last couple months, is that we've just seen a rather sizable number of people who have passed away due to COVID. I think a lot of these people are older. I think we will see those houses will come on the market, at least some of them, in the next couple of months. But frankly, that's just not really going to be a number that I think is going to change things enough. The other thing that I think we may see is we may see a renewed interest in condo conversions. That is where apartments are actually converted into condos. I think that might alleviate some of our condo business. But I think the problem we have is, as far as the single family home front, we have underbuilt homes for the last 10 to 15 years. We have not built as many homes as we had the number of new households forming. And the problem is, this means we have a massive shortage. Even if California loses population, we still have a backlog of demand to work through because we just don't have enough houses. The second problem that we have, and I think this is something that just makes our problem worse. If we look at inventory shortage, there's really two ways that inventory is short. Number one is the number of houses, right? Like we just don't have enough houses. But the second one is something new. And that is almost every buyer wants more square footage today than they wanted 2 years ago. Home offices, work from home, shelter in place, all of these things contribute to people wanting more square footage. So we are short not only on the number of houses, but on the square footage available as well. And I don't see that changing anytime soon. The second consideration is, who are the buyers? When I was in 2006, 2007, I would talk to people delivering pizza to my house, telling me that they had just bought 3 homes as flip properties and they were going to make a bunch of money. That was the market. Those were the buyers. People buying with crazy subprime loans. There were subprime 0 down loans. That meant you didn't need to have any credit. You didn't need to have any money, and you didn't even need to show what kind of job you had, and you could buy a house. And I don't see those as being the kind of buyers in the marketplace. So, I'm a big believer in not saying always or never. I don't think we are in a bubble now, but that doesn't mean the situation couldn't change. And it's something to keep an eye out and watch. And I know that's part of the point of doing these videos, is to sort of point out the things that I'm seeing in the market and try to have a little bit of perspective that is more than just in the moment, thinking about some historical perspective as well. Anyhow, thank you so much for joining us. Obviously, if you want to get in touch with us, we would love to hear from you. Don't give up hope. You are a future homeowner. We believe in you. Do not forget to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. And of course, if you have any questions or comments, we do love to hear them. And we will see you next Tuesday for our regular whole market video. We will see you all soon.